Hey guys, welcome to another stream. Tonight, like it says in the title, I'm going to be working on the Black Pearl, among other things. It's been a long time. It's actually been since July since I did anything on the Black Pearl. So I think she needs a little bit of love tonight, do a little bit more. Haven't worked on it at all since my stream in July. So we've got some side pieces to do, like this right here, and hopefully won't have as much trouble as I did on the other side, and then start working on some of the interior. I think it's kind of funny because one of the guys from Discord, Eric, has been asking for the pearl forever, and now suddenly I do the pearl, and I know it's a joke, but he's like X-Wing. So, and sorry, didn't mean to bump the camera, but I didn't say it was going to be an X-Wing Enterprise. Eric did. How's it going tonight, Mark? But actually, before I start on the Pearl, saw something and I was like, I need this, I think, wasn't sure. And you'll recognize this, Mark. Hey, Dan, welcome. You'll recognize this. We chatted a little bit about it, and I pulled the trigger on it. So, looking at doing a different type of soldering iron. Instead of using electricity, it uses butane gas, which means it's really portable. So, I can use it over here along with over on the bench across the room. And before anybody asks, if Spence shows up, he'll ask, this is an HLI FX01, this is an FX02, this is a flasher board, and this is a one for the Klingon Bird of Prey. Flickering effect for the engine is the red bulb. Then you've got the disruptors, long press, and short press fires photon torpedo. And this one's been running for about a month and a half. This one's been running since May. So, well, Mark, now you'll see what's in it. And I think for the price, I think it was $25. I think it is actually a really good buy. And I already have that little torch that I use. So I already had the butane. I didn't have to buy any. And I use this right now mainly for just burning the insulation off the wires. I have already opened this. I've already looked at it. I've already filled it up. So, let's see, what was this? This was, you can get an extended 2-year warranty, which is not bad. Small instruction book. In here we have a cover for it. I will probably never use it because 9 times out of 10 it's probably going to be in here. You've got it's a metal tank. Like I said, it's already filled. The soldering iron / heater / whatever you want to use it on down here. Got a lock here so that you cannot inadvertently trigger it. Flame lock here so that when you fire it up, the flame will stay, and then adjustment for the flames. Really a nice setup on here. This here, and I haven't done anything with it. This unscrews, and I want to say, yeah, this unscrews, and then this part here will sit inside there, held on by this piece here. Right now I'm just going to leave these here. We'll talk about them in a second. I just want to show you how sweet this operates. So it was one of these things, looking at the pictures on Amazon where I got it, wasn't sure how this locking mechanism worked because it's right there in the way. But what you do is you slide your thumb up. Matter of fact, let me bring this up here. So when you slide your thumb up there, you then pull the block out of the way, and then it will light. Should light. Turn it up just a hair. I may turn it down too far. And then, like I said, Right there's the flame lock, so now it stays on for as long as you need it, and the flame is adjustable. You got lower, oh, I had the flame too hot. You got the high flame here, lower flame here. That's how you will adjust your heat as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off and make sure. Yeah, it's not too hot. This part probably isn't going to get hot. It's going to, because of the holes, you know, it's got some venting. So this first part here that I pulled out, this is the main attachment. Got two little wrenches here. This is some, I believe it's lead-free solder. But all your bits, best way to describe it, will screw into here. And there's a 7 and an 8 millimeter wrench so that you can tighten them down tight. This one is just basically a nozzle for a heat gun. And it says in the instructions it should be, you know, it should be one of these things that you don't even have to have instructions for, but wait for it to cool down before you handle the parts. It's a regular solder point. I'm not going to screw the rest of them in. Just a, you know, small solder point that most of us have used. Put this part back in. This is actually pretty cool. This is, it's angled, but it's also, they describe it as a cutting blade for like rope and something like this. If you're trying to cut nylon rope, heated it, you can heat it and actually melt fibers at the same time. An angled one. And a chisel bit. And the last one is just, it doesn't screw on, it will just slide, I believe, just slide over top of here so you can, a heat deflector, keep the heat on whatever it is you're heating up, your heat shrink. It's got a sponge, haven't done anything with it yet. It's small, what's going to, and all of us know who've done soldering, get this wet, it's going to grow up to the whole size of the whole tin. Overall, a neat little tool. I'm looking forward to using this, especially on the shuttle, because the shuttle parts, the tower is getting huge. It's very cumbersome to carry it across the room. So I should be using this sometime this week, and I'll let you guys know how well it actually, well or poorly, it actually works. So now let me move this baby back in here. She is huge. I'm going to rotate it this way so you can see. This side is still open. This is the side we're going to, actually, let me swing it back over. This is the side I'm going to be working on initially. Then I'm going to, where are tweezers? Then I'm going to maybe do a little bit on the inside. I'm not sure yet. That's Discord. So let me bring up my Discord window on this other monitor. I am too, Mark. I really am. I think it's going to work really well. And to be honest, the reason I bought it is because of what Donnie's discovered, or what Donnie posted, and I've actually read up on it, that solder works really, really well on photo etch. So I'm going to start. That's my main idea for that, is to use it for photo etch, because I also read that the really good way to solder on photo etch is to actually cut a little piece of solder, set it on where your joint is, and then use one like that, maybe with, you know, either with the flame or not with one of the tips, but melt the solder that way, because then it will just flow into where, you know, you keep heating it until it's where you want it, and then you let it go from there. looking forward to doing something like that with the with some photo etch. I've never used solder on photo etch, and I'm looking forward to it. Matter of fact, one of the places I'm looking forward to it. Let me see if I can. Let me angle this a little bit. Not sure how well you can see, but this door is off its hinges. It's worse than off its hinges. The hinge on the bottom, the pin is still there. The hinge came off. I put it in one of these multitudes of containers. Then I threw stuff on top of it. Oh, there it is. So I might actually try and glue that little piece back on. That's a handmade hinge. I've actually got the camera quite a distance up tonight just because the pearl is so huge, but that's a hinge. It glues on the wall next to it. So I'm going to put, don't know if I'm going to try and do that on camera or not, because then I've also got to pull the pin back out of there and see how well I can get it back in. It was one of the concerns I've had with all of these, but you know, came undone. Luckily it came undone before I've put anything over top of the this deck. That way I can actually get back to it. So let me bring these parts in, and those of you who've watched the stream for a while will probably recognize these parts, because back in July, last time I worked on the pearl, I messed with these a little bit. I was actually sliding them in to see how well they fit. There's that, you know, on the skin of the boat right here, this is where this one is going to match up. There's two pieces to give the enough thickness, and then you can see over here where I've done some planking inside. I'm glad that you're not going to be able to see how that planking very well once the top's on, because, or once the next floor's on, because it's okay, but it's got some really, really messy places on it. So let me slide this in here. I think, yeah, see that the other side, that was the biggest problem I had, is that these were not lining up with the windows at all, and it's my fault because the side of the ship, I didn't get it in there exactly right. So let me get some glue on here. It feels like it is. It's a problem with white glue. I just use a tip like this to close it, and unfortunately it still dries out some. You can actually see some here in the bottle itself. And I have around here somewhere. Yeah. If you're using your white glue Elmer's or anything like that in one of these bottles and it dries out, easiest way to make it functional again is to just stick a straightened out paper clip through, clean the excess off, and I can feel it. There's a chunk in there. There's a solid dried chunk. But now, let me see. Not quite. And I'll go from the other side. You just run it back and forth until you clean it out enough to where you can work with it. Hey GB, how's it going? Something a little bit different tonight. Working on the black pearl. And for those of you that have not seen this model before, these sides are actually going to be open. There are panels that can push in, but the sides are going to be open. I believe the side down here also is open, and then you can see the floor pieces come out as well. And I just have to, when I put the guns in, and you know, when I put the cannon in, they should line up so that I can put the whole cannon setup for each one, where it's going to go through the cannon door on the side of the ship and still not interfere with the flooring. Doesn't really say whether the thicker or the thinner piece goes to the outside. So let me see something. Which one lines up better? That one's not bad. They're about the same, and you can see this one is about half the thickness of this one. I'm going to put the thinner piece to the inside. Electric Lightning T5. Excuse my ignorance, GBs. I take it that's a tank, I believe. Which, because of the raffle on HobbyLink International this weekend that I won and won some photo etch, I'm going to become a tank builder, which means the only thing I won't be building, because I build wooden ships, I build with Legos, I build metal earth. So build tanks, plastic model ships, planes, cars. The only figures. So the only thing I don't build is nothing. I pretty much build Mach 2 jet. I want to. Cool. Very nice. Yeah, I build pretty much anything, and anybody who is either on now or watches later, if you don't know what HobbyLink International is, it's a great group of guys over at it's community.hobbylink international, I believe. There's actually a link to it in the description of this video. Great. Actually, no, there isn't. I'll have to check later. If there isn't, I have to add one. But great place to go. Kenny Conklin runs a really good site over there. Great bunch of guys over there. I believe Mark, GB, and Dan all come from HobbyLink International. If you're into scale modeling, it is a great place to hang out, because if you have any questions, you can ask. People will help you to figure out what you're doing wrong, or maybe not better, but a different technique to do something is, so that you get better at what you do on your scale models. I've been over there for 5 years, I think. Great place to meet other modelers. So sorry if the chair's noisy while I roll back and forth. Knew I was working on a black pearl, didn't plan very far ahead, don't have any clamps, but now I do. So now I'm going to, instead of just clamping this together and letting it dry, I'm actually going to put it in place and clamp it to the side of the boat. So let me rotate this back up this way. Actually, let me rotate it a little bit further so that I can see, and maybe, yeah, I should let you guys see what I'm doing as well. So like I said, this just slides down in here, matching up the window, gluing myself to the model. That's okay. But I'm pushing it down, and I'm going to push it forward as much as I can, because some of the stuff doesn't match perfectly, because while the model did come with lights, I've done some modifications. These are not the original lights. These are the original lanterns, but I put some flickering lights in instead. And so since I put the narrow one in the front, I'm going to put the narrow one in the front here as well. And since this is wood, and this is actually just regular Elmer's that I'm using, I'm not using wood glue or anything else, no Gorilla Glue, it should still soak in really well and pretty much make the wooden pieces one with each other. I just thought of something. I could glue it on the bottom. I haven't glued any of them down on the bottom, so I'm not going to worry about it here. But what I do have to worry about is these cutout pieces have to match up with the cutout pieces on the hull of the ship. And this is not the end of the hull. This is just the initial part. Because this is what is known as plank on bulkhead. Initially, it will, I've got the flat parts of the hull. I'll be planking over top of it, and that will do the build-up that makes the ship look like a ship. Get that excess glue out of there. And this is where you start to get inventive with how you do your clamping, so that you can get everything that needs to be clamped while getting the excess glue out. Just a little bit of glue in these areas here. That's cool. That's very cool. I like to see the older airframes get back in the air. Oh wow. Oh, that's the problem with that. It's that clamp. That clamp is actually pulling the side out. I had it way too far out there. So let me try clamping around this spar instead. I should hold it in place against the spar, as well as hold it together. Let me try something here, guys. That camera may not be tall enough to do what I want it to do. It is not quite. Well, maybe. Nah, we'll go with the top one. Okay, so let that dry. And on the other side, these were the ones that were the biggest pains in the behind because they just didn't line up because the angle. This one's doing the same thing. I'm just trying to see if there's a way that I can not have to do a whole lot to make this actually line up with the window in the front here. Yeah, we're going to leave that one for later because this one here is going to need to be cut, or once it's in there I have to cut it to get it to line up to where I've got a decent, not calling it a window, cannon port, a decent cannon port. This one I think is lining up okay. that one lines up okay. The hole here. So the hole here for the spar, I think a spar goes through there, is lining up okay, and all the teeth are lining up like I've done so far. And we're putting the skinnier one to the inside. Not really skinny, the thinner one. I'm being a little bit less liberal with the glue here because I've had to wipe a bunch off with the paper towel. So this is sliding there like that. That should be good. Put some glue on this one. Yeah, it was sticking out a little bit. Grab one down here. Before I do that, probably be easier to get the excess glue out of here. No, not even Q-tip. There, well, yeah. There's a little bit too much glue in there. Which isn't such a bad thing unless it's going to be blocking the other parts when I have to put them in for the outer hull. Okay. Let's see. I believe these were sliding. Put the narrow one in first. The thinner one. That looks good. That's actually window paint or cannon port parts 4. It's about the best fit so far. Sorry, I am out of frame. Kenny's over on Discord uploading images rather than watching. Move this just a hair this way, and I just put glue on my camera. Just a hair this way, so that if I lean back, it's not so much out of frame. This one in here. This is where it gets interesting because it's going to be really hard to clamp it on the bottom and not shift it. That looks like it may hold on its own. Maybe. Yeah. So there's some spar parts that should come on here. And this is where you have the problem of, this is when you didn't use a jig, and so my spars may be a little bit not completely straight. The top here is actually a separate piece. I don't know that that's going to go in there really well, so I'm trying to find a good, you know what? There, that one should work. There's a reason why I bought some really decent files. me see. The angle is this direction. I'm going to file this down while trying to match up with the angle on the spar so that it'll fit in there better. And this is the challenge and the, I guess, enjoyment is what I'd call it, of working with wood, is because wood is a lot more forgiving than plastic. I like working in both mediums, but the wood can sometimes be a little bit more challenged because you've got to form your pieces to match. It should be like that. Whereas your plastic pieces are pretty much preformed, and if they don't match up right off the bat, it could be very interesting ever getting them in. I mean, you can do some sculpting on them, but I find wood is a lot more fun medium to work in. I think I'm putting the wrong slant on those, but regardless, it's very close. And sawdust everywhere, of course. I could use a Dremel for this, but I've used a Dremel on a wooden kit before, and I just lost a little bit of control, and it's really hard to ungrind something that you've ground off on a piece of wood. That is so close. There's the problem. It fits perfect until you put this wall in here. There's a wall right here that's got the doors on it, and it would fit perfect between the spars, but that wall is there. So let me see. Where'd it go? There it is. Leaves a little bit off of either end. I was about to use the chisel blade to just do a straight cut, but it needs about half of the part that needs to be sanded off needs to come from each side. Getting there. And I'll tell you what, that is a lot that's got to come off that back side. Okay, let me get a bigger file. I actually only use these files on wooden models. I have all kinds of other files that I use on the plastic ones, including a lot of the just modeler files. I think this is, yeah, it's a flexi file. No, that sounds terrible. I don't want to break chunks off of it while I'm sanding it or filing it down. Okay, it looks, there's still a little bit too much to file, so I'm going to very carefully cut a sliver down the whole length of this thing. Then I'm going to file that flat. Maybe not necessarily smooth, but flat enough to get it the rest of the way in there. That may have been a little bit too much on that spot, but we'll adjust. That is so close now. Try it this way. I think that's very close to it. Okay, so the top is good. The bottom is just a hair too long. And I can see it looking at it from this angle. Up here it's good. I just need to shave a little bit off. That, I think, should do it. This is actually the first major model, wooden model that I've done, or wooden ship, should I say. And of course, it does not line up on the bottom with that spar hole that way either. That reminds me, looking over on the other side, once this is in there, because this is up where I'm not going to be able to plank, that should be able to come out there. I won't be planking up in here, so I'm going to need to stain up inside there. Let's see if I can get it to where you guys can see what I'm talking about. So if you see right here, this one looks really well, looks really good, matches up pretty good. But if you look down here, that one doesn't match up at all. It needs to go further down, maybe a hair back, but I think just down would do it. So I'm going to get out a square file and file that down to where it fits. Sorry if I make anybody seasick. So where's my split? That's around one. That's a triangle. Triangle will work, but I'd prefer the square. And that's, I'm not sure if it was, wow, that is so far down to the bottom. Not sure if it was my July stream or not, when I did this last. I know it's within the last 2 streams because that's when I did that side. And I could probably go without this. This is just more for sturdiness on the side of the ship. But I'd rather not. I actually have to bring it forward some too. And I can feel under here that I may have dropped the hull down here. The skin of the hull is maybe a little bit low, which is why that's not matching up. That's a beautiful thing. We do a little bit of fine work on here. That is just about perfect. I'm wrenching on that door. I don't like. Was that the top? That was the top. So now I have both hinges to put back on. And these were just on with the regular glue. I may super glue them back on. It wouldn't be so bad except getting those little pins in. I got the pins in without this spar across here, so it could be interesting. Just a second. Oh, Kenny is watching me. That's kind of cool. He's got me on the living room TV. That is really awesome. I appreciate that, Kenny. And if anybody who doesn't know, everybody who's here now, I'm pretty sure knows, but anybody who doesn't know, Kenny is Kenny Conklin from over at Hobby Link International. So that one should be good. How far off? Let's turn it the right way. I am on the Jumbotron, yes indeed. So here, let me show you just how much. Oops, I've got Discord in front to where I can't see what I'm doing. Let me show you right here. So you can see where I filed that open a little bit, and that's how much I had to peel off of there. Because that's about the thickness of this wall. But yeah, I shouldn't do it that way. I was about to put it on there and go, yay, start messing with it. But there's some on the other side too here, a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing. But this time, since I know, instead of trying to sand half of it off, I'm going to start by cutting this part off. I'm going to use this a little bit as a guide. That's way too much. I'm about to take way too much of that off. We're going to call that good because I can adjust that spar hole after I cut this part off. It would probably be a smart idea to use a sharper chisel right now, but I'm going with what's already on the blade or on the handle. This one's twice as thick, so it's taking a little bit more effort. There's part of it. That's about halfway through there. This may end up being too far, but it's okay if it's a little bit. He's okay. My grandson's dog just came running in.
Dude, let's go outside. Outside. Let's go.
Go.
Let's go. Outside.
Go with Jordan.
Let's go.
He hangs out with me a lot. That's pretty cool, Dan. I should start doing that, except for the wife usually is using the TV, so I've got my two monitors upstairs where I usually watch stuff, or where it's one of the two places I watch. I watch either here or up there. And then when I'm up there, I've actually got like 32-inch monitors. They're huge. And I got them on a steal. When I bought them, it was right after we moved to Illinois. They were on, I didn't realize they were how big a sale they were on, but they were just, was a good price for them on Amazon. Got them for like $150 each. And I looked at them recently and used. Hey Spence. Hey Omar. But I looked at them recently and they're $650 used now. So I think I did a pretty good deal on those monitors. By the way, I don't know if you were watching, Kenny, but I already did my whole spiel about the boards. You can see them, or at least one of them back there. Do it every time. Trying to get you to sell more boards. Yes, Ron Weasley is in the house. Okay. Let me trim a little bit off the back side here. Actually, I'm trimming off the front side. This, like I was saying before on the other side, this might be a little bit much, but as long as I can get it in there, I can brace it, and all will be good. I may actually have to buy more, even though I haven't used either of my two. I may have to buy more 001As because they're a very versatile board. I think the timing is just about perfect for aircraft as well as starships. If I did more wooden models, I would purchase some of the mini and micro power tools they have. Like they, right now, what would be really cool is a belt saw, and they make them. It's just that I can't see paying that kind of money for something I use very rarely. Yep. I cannot wait to see what new ones you've got coming out. It will be interesting to see what you guys do next. And you can rest assured, if I've got the funds, I will be purchasing some. No wonder I couldn't cut with the blade. There's a chunk of wood hanging on it. That should do that. A little bit of filing. Of course he loves being a tease. I think it's actually pretty cool that they do that because it makes the anticipation that much better. So that piece is still in there. So yeah, there's a little bit extra off on the front. It's not gonna matter. I can run a bead of glue down there. Worse than American Idol. Wow. 535 scale on the eBay. Let me know how that comes out there, Omar, with the printing a Voyager. Although I still have, I think, well, I've got the one in progress, and I think I've got 2 or 3 more, including the one that Donnie did, where he thinned out the deflector to where light actually came through. That is pretty impressive that he was able to do that. Hell with that, Kenny. He should go for 1,000, or no, 350. Sorry, going the wrong way. Go for a 1,350, Omar. Make a big Voyager. Let's see. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. If I have to get a spar through, I may have to sand it down. That would be cool. 1-to-1 scale. But then the caretaker would snatch your ship out of the Badlands. You'd end up on the other side of the galaxy. Okay, so I'm going to put these two together. I'll have to jockey them around. But like I said, on this, the thicker one back here, there's a bit of a gap here. So I'm going to throw some glue in there, and I may have to put some in later. Hello, Apollo. Apollo is back to visit. And unless my grandson snatches him up, I will. Yeah, it sounds like Jordan's going to take him. Otherwise, I was going to switch cameras and let you guys see the big white monster. Don't close it, Jordan. It gets too hot in here.
Okay.
And I just saw when I turned around that Tyson was actually over there behind me. We have many, many dogs. Let me just double check. Yes, Shatner. I think that is kind of funny that they're going to send Shatner into space. So that's down close enough to where I should be able to work with it when it comes time to put something through that spar, that hole. Hard to get it right. Well, yes, he's going up with what's his name? Elon Musk. That's not big enough. Let me get this clip on here. And I should be able to adjust it if need be. Let me take a look. Yeah, that's close enough. Maybe you have to sand it a little bit. 4 foot long. Good Lord. Apollo, hey. Hey, buddy. So let me switch cameras real quick. And I'm sitting on the cord, or the model is. Hello, Apollo. This is my buddy. He comes down in the morning and hangs out with me while I work from the office here at home. He's a Samoyed. He is about 3 or 4 times the size of all of our other dogs, and they're not very impressed. Say hello, Apollo. Hey, say hello. Okay, let me put this back. Jordan can would have made that so much easier. You good boy, huh? He is a very good boy. He's a very cute boy. And like I said, he hangs out with me down here. He's Jordan's dog, but he likes to hang with Poppy. Lay down with Apollo. Okay, now the fun ones. See if I can get... I just thought of something. Let me try this. I've never thought about it. I have pencils right here, sitting right next to the part that I'm about to work on. And instead of just cutting and trying to figure it out, and hoping I get it, I'll do that. You can see the marks right there. I'll do that on both of them. That should make it a lot quicker and easier to get this part in here. And again, it's one of these things that's got to be close. I'll do some finish work on it later on, and it will, I think that will make it work. Against the grain, that went through really well. The one thing I got to be really careful of here is I don't want to snap the part in half. It's very easy to split these little pieces of wood, especially the thinner ones like this. If anybody has ever done wooden models, and you have pointers, I am glad to take them. I've only done one wooden ship before, and it was my stern wheeler. I need to post pictures of it sometime on HLI. And it just lent itself so much to storytelling through the figures that I put on it, because I bought railroad style figures, HO figures, because that's the size of the stern wheeler. It's 1/87th scale, so I bought the figures that matched it. I bought a horse to put in this little corral area, and I just had a blast. Sometime I need to do a video of it with a handheld camera and actually go through that thing and explain who everybody is. Why should Kenny take me back to a red shirt? I post all the time. Not a red shirt. Like I told Kenny, I think what he should do if he could, is a Harry Kim. Somebody who posts a little bit, but never really gets anything done, and no promotions. Ensign for life. Apollo is very friendly, and chocolate labs are cool. Apollo is very friendly, but what he does that's kind of annoying is he wants to play. Because he is literally still a puppy. He's only 7 months old. And so what he'll do is, as he walks past the laundry hamper in the laundry room going out through the doggy door that we installed for all the dogs. He'll grab some random piece of clothing out of the hamper and go outside in the yard and then sit out there, because he's literally, you know, from where I'm at right here, it's to the left where he'll sit out there with the shirt or whatever and look at me and see if I see him, because he's like, come get me, come chase me, Dad, to take this away from me. I guess that would be worse than a red shirt. Oh, come on, it's not that bad. But no, what he does, he'll go out there because he wants me to chase him. And here lately, he doesn't realize that it's not something he should take. When I get off work, I'll take off my work shirt and throw it in the hamper, and he'll immediately grab it and go outside. And so I'm like, no, Apollo, not that. And I don't chase him. What I do is I then go outside, and after a while, and after he's dropped it, he sits there and he watches me come over, and I pick it up and he looks at me and I'm like, no, Apollo, don't take this one. And usually he leaves that one alone next time. Yeah, well, come on. Even Tom Paris got promoted and demoted. They had to have somebody like that. And I thought he never got promoted, so that would make it 7 years, not 5. I wonder how Garrett Wang feels to be the only guy in Starfleet that never got a promotion. That's really close. Just remember, when you're cutting stuff, never cut towards yourself. Do as I say, not as I do. So it looks a little bit funky, the double window like that, but I believe actually I think the problem with Harry is he had no initiative. He didn't do anything, and so nobody thought to promote him. That's really, really close. A little bit of work with the file here. Actually, Wesley Crusher promoted himself off the show. Will Wheaton kind of got a bum rap on that because he was young and didn't know any better and got all too big for his britches, and everybody just kind of let him do his thing and leave. Well, yeah, Mark, you were in the Coast Guard. It's just like the Air Force, just like the Air Force, the Army, every other branch of the service. Have a good one, Omar. Every branch of the service. You show up on time for work, they're going to promote you. It's the higher ranks that you got to do a little bit more for. Got glue under my thumbnail. So let me see. So just over an hour and 8 pieces of wood glued together. That's why these things take forever. That should be okay. Right here, I've got a little bit of a bump that I may have to take down later in the cannon port. My ex-wife had a boyfriend who, when she was in when she was in Hawaii, she had a boyfriend who got promoted and demoted almost on a monthly basis. Yeah, kind of like the guy in the sergeant in 12 O'Clock High. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, but it's the Air Force has, in some circles, the Air Force uses that as a leadership training type film. And it's funny to watch when the sergeant doesn't have his shoes on, or not his shoes, but his shirt on or something when the general walks in, and so the general demotes him. And as soon as, once she got to class 2, it was easy. After that, you had to wait for someone to die or retire or both. Honestly, that's the way the Guard and Reserve is too. That's why I never got in, once I retired, I never got into it, because that's exactly what the problem is. You get these people that are 70 years old in the leadership, and they've been doing it for the last 40, 50 years and set in their ways. So back to the story of the sergeant and the general. But so the general walks in, and like I said, the sergeant was doing something he wasn't supposed to. Didn't have a shirt on, something. And the general's like, okay, I'm a general. I'm going to demote you. You're a private. And the sergeant's like, yes, sir, and all that. And he's like, okay. So he takes off his chevrons. And the general needs to go somewhere a little while later after literally as the sergeant finishes taking off his chevrons, the general has to go somewhere. He walks in, he's like, who's my driver? And the now private says, I am, sir. He's like, put those stripes back on. I can't be driven around by a private. And that happens to this guy multiple times in the movie. But yeah, the whole thing about the leadership aspect, and here I am being being an instructor, which I never was, just comes natural, I guess. But the whole thing about it was you watched the general who never learned, did any delegation. He did everything himself, and so he's burnt out by the end of the movie. And that's why they've used it as a leadership example, is to show people how not to, just take everything on themselves. Share the burden with the people you work with your troops. And it is a very hard lesson to learn. It was a hard lesson for me to learn. I think most people who end up in a position of leadership, it's a lesson that you have to learn, but it's a lesson that's very hard to learn. And when you finally do learn it, you realize, it's funny because I've known some people who everything that their people do, they take credit for, and everything time their people screw up, they say, yeah, Snuffy did this, Snuffy did that, Snuffy should know better. And that is when the leader is not a leader, the leader is just out for himself. I personally have given kudos to all the people I've ever worked, or who've ever worked for me, for everything that they've done. And when they screw up, I say, I look at it as it's my fault because I didn't teach them well enough. Within reason. If somebody gets a DUI, I am not standing up and saying, yeah, that's my fault. I'm going to slap them just as hard as the next person. But during that same process, I would stand by them as if they were, because they are still humans. And I've had many, okay, we'll call it 8 to be an exact number, people that I assisted them in their insistence in departing the military. Yeah, it does some, but the thing is, I tell you right now, GB, the crap rolls downhill, but as the NCO or the leader, the key thing is you're not going to be able to stop the crap from rolling downhill, but you're sure as hell going to block as much of it as you can and take it on yourself. Especially if if it's not their fault, which happened a lot in the Air Force. Had a few times that crap rolled downhill from me to some of my airmen because, the best one I can think of off the top of my head is this kid that complained because we were flight line and guys could not go to the chow hall from the flight line very easily, so we started doing this thing where we would pick up meals. We'd pick up hot meals from the chow hall. People would put their order in, on this slip of paper. We would call it in or fax it in or whatever to the chow hall so that somebody could drive over there and pick up hot meals. I had this one kid one time. I walked in. This is before I was a first sergeant. I walked in. I was the flight chief. I was a master sergeant. And the shirt came by my office and said, "Yeah, can we talk?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we went over to his office, and we talked about this, that 32 kids, that's not bad. The highest ranking at E3. Yeah, I can see that. But now this kid, the shirt comes over, and we talk about this, and it was funny because he said that one of the airmen had complained because the meals had gotten screwed up the night before, and people didn't get their meals and all this, that, and the other thing and all that. I'm like, interesting. Let me look into it and see. By the way, who was it that talked to you? And he gave me the kid's name, and I'm like, really? I looked at the shirt and I said, "Shirt, here's my problem with that complaint. He was in charge of doing the meals last night. He had not done the meals. He'd forgotten or something, decided not to do them, whatever, and so complained that he went hungry, didn't get any food." He and I had a very interesting conversation when he came into work. And it's not one of the things I'm proud of, but I did make him cry. And it was funny because I'm getting called out. Oh, that is beautiful the way that came out. I'm getting called out for something he did, and he complained about that somebody didn't do their job. I'm good with that until the somebody who didn't do their job is you. It's part of the job. He's not the only kid I made cry. But I will tell you, I had one kid that, I think I've told some of you guys this story before, where it was actually how I became a first sergeant, because this kid was supposed to be testing for his staff sergeant stripe, and he comes in, I come into work, it's like 7:30. Testing starts at 7:30. I walked in the door at like 7:25, and this kid is going through the personal information folders, trying to get to his, so that he can get his testing report on individual personnel. Because supposedly some master sergeant outside the testing building had told him he needed to bring that with him. Otherwise they wouldn't let him test. And I'm like, no, dude, you should be over there right now. They will provide that. They have a copy of it. Get over there right now before you miss your test date. Because if you miss your test date through something stupid, like you listen to a master sergeant who shouldn't have told you what he told you, if that was really what happened, and I think it was. The kid was just frazzled. But if you miss your test date through your own fault, you don't get a test, and you're not promoting this year. It was funny because I sent him over there, and as soon as he walked out of the building, I called up promotions and testing and said, "Yeah, Airman so and so is going to be there in about 3 minutes." And I looked at the clock and I'm like, he's missed his test date. So when he gets there, tell him it's too late. You missed your test date. Door's already closed. You're not going to be able to test this year. Sorry. And send him back to me. And they, just send him to his shirt, as if you had no idea that he, as if I hadn't called you. So he comes back to the office and he's like, I'm going to flip, because this is a really good spot to stop. It's 7:16. I'll go a little bit further, but I'm still going to flip this. So he comes back and he's all dejected and sad and all this, and he's like, I looked at him, I'm like, "You missed your test date, didn't you?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That sucks. You probably aren't going to be able to test this year, and so you're not going to be able to promote." So I said, "Here's what I'm going to do for you. Let me make a phone call." And I called over to promotions and testing and talked to the exact same guy and said, "Yeah, Airman so and so's here." As if we had not talked before. "Airman so and so's here. He missed his test date. Yada 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 yada." And the guy on the other end of the line says, "Sure, since you called in before he got here, we're going to give him a test date," because usually you'd have to go to the not the wing commander, but the command chief and all this, go way up the chain to get a test date. And they said, "Sure, because you called in before he got here, we're going to hook you up. We're just going to give him a test date. Next date we can test him is whatever, like March 13th, whatever it was." Yeah, service-wide. I'll explain that in a second. But, so I looked at the kid and I said, "Can you make it on such and such date? 7:30, be there." He looked at me and said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Okay." I said back to the guy on the phone, I said, "Okay, he'll be there." Looked at him and I said, he hung up the phone, looked at him and said, "Do not miss this. Do not, I don't care what it takes, be there." He said, "I will be there at 6:30. It was funny because 3 months later, when the line numbers came out, he was on there. So I got to go with the commander. We walked in, and I called him over and I said, "Good job. You made staff." And he was like, "What? Really?" Blew his mind completely that he had made it, and I was like, "Good job." It made me feel good, and that was actually how I went and actually became a real first sergeant, because I was acting at the time. So yeah, as far as testing, we do. When I first got in, we did twice a year, like you guys did, Mark, and then with drawdowns and everything else, they cut it back to once a year. So you had one chance a year to test, and it was service-wide. By service-wide, it's like I was an integrated avionics stack control system specialist. So when I tested for staff sergeant or E5, I tested only against people in my same grade and job. Like when I tested for master, there was a total of Air Force-wide 97 of us that were integrated avionics that tested. It was my first time out, and I was number 5. And that was based on my score. It took me, I was number 5, and it took me almost a year to put the stripe on. Yeah, it's points. And the testing gives you, in the lower ranks, it's up to 200 points. One for your job knowledge, one for military knowledge, and then there's performance reports, time and service and time and grade they took away. It used to be time and service, time and grade, performance reports, and then two, one job knowledge, one military knowledge test. For a total, when up until the grade of master, it was like 400 and something points. I forget exactly how many it was, but most people made rank with right around 300, a score right around 300, 300 to 310. When I made master, I wanted a score of 345, and I was pissed because I missed it. I shot for 350. I got 341. I was upset because I missed my target score, but I made the grade by 30 points. Yes. Yes. Recommendations from the boss are now, or stratification for the senior NCO ranks. That weighs in a lot. For your lower ranks, stratification has gone away. Should never have been there. And stratification is a little bit silly anyway. You know, how does the commander know that you are the number 5 or number 6 E7? Okay, so I got that. What was I going to do next? I have cannons. Let me take a look. Oh, by the way, those are the hammocks. I hate the hammocks. They're royal pain in the behind. So that, yeah, that is the last of that page. And this lies. This picture right here lies. None of them lined up that perfectly. Unless, of course, I don't know because these are Chinese instructions, but I have read from other, on other models that, let me change cameras. I've read on other models that you don't glue. As a matter of fact, I think it was Eric's brother that said he didn't glue the model he was working on. It said not to glue the spars in so that they could shift. And I'm willing to bet that if I had not glued the spars in when I first put it together, things would be a lot different. That's really sad. He got passed over because of the first Louis. I actually, and that's the thing, is the stratification and stuff like that only really mattered in the senior NCO ranks. It never bothered me to piss off the higher ups, because usually when I pissed off the higher ups, it was because for a good reason, and the people below them or above them, they really understood why I pissed off the person below them, and agreed with me. So actually, make sure. According to the instructions, I should now be putting in the cannon. I can't put this one in. Actually, let me think. This one I can. I can't put this one in because this one I'm not going to be able to plank. That's what I should be doing, is planking here to here. Thing. Let's see. Paint the cannon. I've never seen those parts before. So I'm going to plank the wall that's facing away from me. Once I plank that, put the cannons in, and those bracings right there, those curved braces underneath each of the spines, I don't remember seeing those. Oh yeah. Make stairs, but let's see. Yeah, so this is where building with wood becomes fun, because there are no actual pieces. I don't think there's no 23-1A. There might be the E5, but I don't know that there are actually slats like that. I may have to hand make them. And now back to our show. Yes, of course. So here's the funniest thing that I ever saw a second lieutenant do. It was the last night he was a second lieutenant. He crashed 2 trucks, first his own, and then somebody else's. We were in an exercise. He backed the Pro Super's truck up into somebody else at 11:59. 1 minute later, he went from second lieutenant to first lieutenant. It was the funniest thing, because he promoted. So we all decided that's the way you get promoted. You screw up to move up. So let me turn this around. Oh, that chain's hanging up. I will tell you guys, this is a really nice little stand, but these rubber pieces keep falling off, and until the boat is actually got a hull rather than just spars, it's better to actually have a clamp that clamps onto the keel. That is how it seems to be for officers. Okay, so on the other, well, it is how it is for officers, some, but on the other hand, I have seen some officers get really jacked up. I do have to say that the major that got a DUI and then became a squadron commander, that really blew my mind. Actually, I think he was a squadron commander when he got the DUI. By the way, I mean, she is a big boat. They're called frames. Okay, I will listen to the guy that, grew up on boats. I thought they were spars. Just that. Tell you what, though, Kenny, she's a big boat, but she is not near as big as the Titanic. The Titanic is flippin' huge. The Titanic is almost twice the size. So, let me cut this one, make sure it fits. This is where it's going to be interesting, because I have to, on this side I was able to lay long planks after I figured out a good length to have. On this one, because these small the jointed area here, that's not going to work. Yes, it is. And I can and I can't wait to get back to it. I want to get other things off the bench first. And the Titanic may have to take a back seat, because Eric and I are doing the buddy build for the Queen Mary 2. That is going to be a fun boat. And I will tell you guys, it doesn't say that I have to plank this side. But if I look through here and see just bare wood, it's going to irritate me. Well, Eric can sink his. I mean, think about the way that the let me tilt this over towards me. Think about the way the Ida Blue came out. And now I have a larger boat to do that with. I don't know how much of that I'm going to do since the Ida Blue is a cruiser and the Queen Mary, I just noticed there's going to be something that goes there. Yes, and the Queen Mary I can do some of that with. And I have several other ocean liners. And actually, Ida isn't a liner per se, it's a cruiser. I will sink Eric with a torpedo. Let's see. This might not work because it's a little bit, that's better. This one's a little bit shriveled. Don't think it's going to work. And thank you, Kenny. I loved building the Ida. I kick around every now and then when I see one, but picking up another one. I have a feeling, though, that with that buddy build on the Queen Mary, I don't think that Eric is going to be too quick to wreck that one. Bismarck, I can see him wrecking. You will see when people do planking like this, a lot of people will use white glue like this. I like using the glue stick because you don't have, you're not trying to glue something that is that wanting to come off that badly. With these frames, could get a little bit interesting. I have never watched Everybody Loves Raymond. I didn't love Raymond, I'm sorry. But I take it he had an issue with the glue stick. Let's see if I can get that one edge is just not staying down. So this next one can go the full, I'm like, can go the full length, and I'm like, that one's already there. I was going to use the one that I just cut to measure with. Although I can cheat like this. Oh, and this weekend, let me see where did I put it? This weekend I might be knocking out just a fun little weekend build. Oh, it's way across the room. Okay. So has everybody seen You Only Die Twice? You Only Live Twice from James Bond? I've had a kit in my stash for a while. I actually bought it when I watched that movie. I was like, that's a cool looking thing. And I went on eBay. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And I bought it. I think it was like $10 back in 13 or 14. But I have a model of Little Nellie, and I've decided I'm going to build Little Nellie. You're not a big fan of Daniel Craig? He makes Bond a little bit grittier. On a busy day, it takes me about 12 minutes to get home. And that depends on how many people are clogging the gate, too. Because we have to, when we are leaving the base, they have the weave set up, so you have to go weaving back and forth so that should a terrorist want to come and do anything, he's going to have to go through your car. Yeah, Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig does a pretty good job as only an hour and a half. Wow, does a pretty good job as Bond. Skyfall was really good. At least in my opinion, it was one of the best ones he's ever done. And well, no spoilers unless you've already seen it. So. Suffice it to say that Skyfall, he did really good as James Bond and had some really rough times in there. Another one that another Bond that a lot of people don't like that I think is actually he did really, really good was Roger Lazenby. A lot of people, oops, you can't write with that. A lot of people don't like the Roger Lazenby version of Bond on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I used to think it was a really bad and cheesy one too until I watched it and actually sat down and watched it. I was like really impressed. He's the most realistic Bond, I think. Well, there is that. But I don't know. Do you know? Yes, George Lazenby did really good. I don't know. Should I tell him it, Kenny? About what the big thing that happens in Skyfall? Dealing with Dame Judi Dench? And George Lazenby was the only one that I believe was the only one that ever actually wore a kilt, because Bond was supposed to be an Irishman, I believe. Or no, Scottish. So yeah, in that one, in Skyfall, it really shocked me when they killed him. And they actually did it really, really well. You know, the way they took her out. And I think it was a very respectful way to retire her from the part. So we're at hour 40. Planks are sticking okay. One's a little bit up here. I am going to actually call this, guys. Let these parts dry a little bit more. Get the planking, you know, do the planking maybe off screen. Because next I'm going to have to do the cannons and all that. So let me switch over. I did not know that. 'Cause I know she's done some movies after that, but I didn't know she had any kind of real health problems, which is why she was quitting. I thought it was a very good, it was a very classy way to take her, to retire her from the part, I thought. So, did a little bit on here, on the Pearl. Might do the X-Wing next week so that Eric can scream about the Pearl, because I don't think Eric's here tonight. I know he was earlier, or I know he was on Discord. I don't think he ever showed up actually on YouTube. But yeah, I'm pleased with the way that the Pearl is coming together. I'm nervous about trying to plank the hull because if I flip it over, I lose doors. And I'm kind of excited to start putting some cannons in here. What I really want is to get this. When I get this deck done, then I'll be able to plank the bottom of it. Do the hull, and at that point, it then will be just a lot of detail work at the top. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Thanks, Mark. She's. Let me think. In February, I will have been here for 3 years. And I want to say we actually bought her here, so I've only been working on her for about 2 years so far. Yeah, they do. But what I may try, is seeing if I can do the solder thing on the hinges on just the bottom side and still have it moving. Cool. That was funny though, Kenny, that when before you even shipped it, they said, yeah, there's an emergency, it's going to be late. So, and I've been looking around, Kenny, once I get the photo etch here. You know me, when I win something, I tend to build it. Except for the Claude. I still have to build the Claude. Damn it. So, like I said, going to call this a night. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And hope to see you get back again next week. Like and subscribe. If you're not a member of HLI, stop over there, see what's going on. Hobby Link International should be a link in the description. Thanks, Kenny. Bud, you're showing up as I'm leaving. But and if you, I lost my train of thought. Stop by HLI. It's a really great place. Bunch of great guys over there. A lot of modeling going on. A lot of people that can help if you have any modeling questions. Group builds, buddy builds, just a lot of things. If you like, and even if you're not a modeler, if you like seeing this kind of thing, Hobby Link International is a great place to go to see people building a model, people's builds of models. A lot of awesome work over there. Let me see. Dan, I know very little about sailing ships as well. This is the second wooden ship I've built. I've built a couple of ship models, and as a kid I built ship models badly. So it's an adventure, and like I've said on the on HLI, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And every model is a journey, and I'm, because I'm looking at some things I'm going to have to fix here, but none of it makes me sad. All of it makes me feel happy. Space loot. There is no space loot. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a great evening. Have a great tomorrow, and we'll catch you on the flip side.